Hello. Welcome to the Rendered Podcast. Oh my gosh, grab a seat, girl, or guy, or person of all gender appropriations and the pronouns. But yeah, welcome to the Render Podcast. I'm Elliot, your host, and think of this podcast as a little hangout sesh with a 20-something-year-old creative who loves to yap and now has a microphone to do so. That's basically what this is. We're just hanging out, talking about literally anything and everything. First order of business, I thought it would be cute if we ran through a couple of things I wish I knew when I entered the creative sphere, honestly, while still in high school. And I thought this would be a really good first episode to get to know each other and also to give you like a good feel of like the vibes I bring to the function. Also, it's 3 a.m. on a random Wednesday. I was editing and I was like, you know what, girl? My brain is fried. I was working on a poster for a friend and I just kept on making so many mistakes. And I was like, you know what? Just do something fun for a change. I also haven't created like content for me in a while, you know? So it was really necessary for me to just like step back and do something fun because I love creating content for myself. And I also love talking about myself, which is kind of what this podcast is all about. So love that for me. Let's start off with a little who am I moment. So I am a freelance digital content producer / creative director / graphic designer. And I am also the founder and editor-in-chief of Fonda Magazine, which is a digital fashion publication. And just like the Rendered Podcast, another extension of the Fonda brand. If you haven't figured already, I am Fonda. Fonda is actually my middle name. And yeah, there's a whole story about why I chose to name like my brand after Fonda. It's actually like pretty interesting and it's in our first issue of Fonda Magazine. So go check that out. But I'm not going to go into that right now because it's like a whole thing. And I actually started Fonda Magazine while I was in high school. I think in grade 12 or was it grade 11? Not sure. I think it was grade 11. No, it was grade 12. It was grade 12. While I was in grade 12 writing exams and I was quote unquote studying. I was not studying, but I was staring at my book. And I had watched The Devil Wears Prada earlier that day and I was thinking about like, oh my gosh, that was such a good movie. And I was like, why do I love that movie so much? Oh, I love fashion. I knew that. And a part of me has always thought that because I love fashion, I have to either be like a fashion designer or a stylist or a fashion photographer or I don't know, just something more conventional to the fashion industry. But I never really realized that my career throughout forever has always been media related and publication related somehow, somewhere. Photography, social media management, it all has like, if you put all that together, it kind of encapsulates my love for fashion editorial and all that. I love styling, but I love styling like fashion editorials. Yeah, anyways, Fonda Magazine was like a huge defining moment for me. And it honestly really like made me realize what I want to do with my life. It obviously hasn't been easy doing it because as we know, journalism is dying and fashion journalism is dying even more. And it's just, yeah, it's becoming increasingly harder to pave your way into the fashion journal. But that's not going to stop me, girl. Have you met me? Hello. But I was talking about how I actually started Fonda in high school. Then after that, I did a 2-year gap year, which not going to lie, probably one of the best decisions I could have made like in my entire life. Even though technically it wasn't my initial plan and it was also like way out of my control. So even though gap year wasn't my initial plan and obviously I would have loved if my initial plan would have carried out, it was such a defining moment for me. And I'm glad I just took those 2 years to kind of figure out what exactly I want for myself as a creative, especially right after high school. And I think this is so important because when you're coming out of high school, especially as a creative, obviously everybody's experience is unique and but 9 times out of 10, your perception of what the creative industry is versus what it actually is probably inaccurate. That was the case for me. And I think it's just that thing of how creativity in itself is constantly evolving and constantly changing. So I'm really glad I took those 2 years off just to integrate myself with key players in the industry and just like go to summits and like attend events and just, I don't know, get a feel, get to know people, network. Yeah, it was a very enlightening 2 years. I think for me, going into the creative industry out of high school, I actually did not expect much from which is so bad. And like, I think this is the case for a lot of us because whenever you hear about our creative industry, a lot of the times it's probably a negative connotation to it. Like, oh my gosh, did you hear that artist flopped so bad? There's just always a negative connotation to a lot of things happening in our creative industry, which is kind of sad. So going into it, I was like, oh girl, I don't want to be here. I want to be in the US. I want to be somewhere where like, you know, it's actually evolving and like people actually being creative. So going into it, I wasn't expecting to find like a place for me here, but obviously rather that than corporate. God knows I wouldn't do corporate. Imagine me in like an office, like doing accounting or something. I love the accounting girls, no tea, no shade to the accountant, but I would literally go insane, babe. So yeah, kind of like I don't really have a choice kind of thing. And I think this is when I actually realized that Namibians are so creative, so creative. I think the only sad thing about why that creativity sometimes doesn't translate into the zeitgeist or into pop culture or into the international world is because of our fear of being perceived. Obviously, also just Namibians love to play it safe. Like I think not even just Namibians, but I think it's also just like an African thing where we love to play it safe because our cultural heritage and like tradition is so strong. So we stick to what we know because that has always worked. So anytime there's anything new, it's kind of scary for us to kind of fully endorse that. And unfortunately with creativity, everything is literally new. Like I said, creativity is all about new. It's all about innovation. It's all about creating. It's all about things changing. And that can be very scary, especially if the people around you usually don't have a positive reaction to change. And I actually think that's a perfect transition into the first thing I wish I knew as a creative straight out of high school, which is you don't have to have it all figured out. I think this goes for not even just creatives. This goes for anybody coming out of high school. I don't know if this is a Gen Z thing or if it's just a society thing where media and society tells us like, oh my gosh, you have to be great at a very young age or otherwise it doesn't count. So I think when you're in high school, there's this very subtle expectation that you should have your shit figured out by now, babe, which is so insane because, babe, I don't even know who I am. Let's start there. When you're in high school, you probably don't have a good enough idea of what is going on in the creative industry for you to even make a decision as big as what you want to define yourself as for the rest of your life. The world is a really complicated place. And I learned that even more every day that I step outside. It is so complex. It's so complex that we can't even comprehend it. So we make up all these rules because we don't want to face the fact that it is pretty unlikely for a child to make a huge decision about what they want to do for the rest of their life at that stage. And even more specifically to creatives, because I've realized that the pace and journey of a creative is very different from the traditional way of life. A lot of creative peers do not fit the traditional go to school, go to uni, get an internship, get a job, blah, 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 especially here in Namibia, where the concept of being a full-time creative in a professional setting is severely untapped. So I think it is important to keep in mind that for all my creators out there who love to create in different mediums, you are an artist, you love design, you love fashion styling, you love, graphic design. You do not have to have it all figured out. It's important for you to learn what those things are and what you love about them. So definitely get to know yourself. That should be your primary focus, I think. Just getting to know why you love the things you love and just finding out what you actually want from the industry and like letting go of that pressure of having to have it figured out. Really important. So yeah, next up kind of piggybacks off the first one. Next point is formal education does not equal instant success at all. And if you're a Namibian girl, art school here, barely a thing. We have a couple colleges, but as far as art school goes and getting a formal education in a creative sphere, it's very hard to come across. As like I'm navigating being a creative, I'm realizing that some of the most skilled and like creative people I've come across on set and on different projects are fully self-taught. I am fully self-taught. I mean, yeah, I'm a student now, but everything I'm learning right now, I learned that on my own already on YouTube a couple of years ago or a couple of months ago or whatever. Graphic designing, I completely learned how to do graphic designing on my own. And I don't know if you can actually, probably College of the Arts. I was going to say, I don't think you can get a degree in graphic designing here, but yeah, College of the Arts exists. But if you are coming out of high school and you think that the only way that you can be successful is getting a degree, I'm here to tell you that that is completely not the case. I think one of the perks of being a creative is that whether you go to uni or not, a portfolio goes a long way. Obviously, in a lot of spaces, it's hard for just that to back you up and get you into the spaces you want to be in. But a lot of the times as well, your portfolio, if it's good enough, if it's vast enough, and they can actually see that you know what you're doing, that a lot of the time is actually enough to get you in a lot of spaces. So yeah, build your portfolio, girl. If you do not want to go to a formal education or want to take a gap year or take time to yourself and really figure out who you are, which highly recommend, by the way, do it. Please do it. If you take any advice from this podcast, is that if you are thinking about taking a gap year, do it and just take that year or a couple of years, or in my case, 2 years, take that year to navigate the creative industry around you. It doesn't have to be the one that's out of reach or far from reach. Obviously, try and reach your goals, girl. If you can get there, get there. But don't let that stop you from creating. In my case, for example, the formal education that I wanted to pursue, like right out of high school, was not an option here. Still is not an option here. And I can't imagine if I would have just ended there, if I would have just decided, shit, okay, I can't access a formal degree, so I might as well just choose another thing because I obviously won't be successful if I don't have a degree. I would probably be, I would be in law school. I would definitely be in law school because a part of me, not gonna lie, still really wants to do law school or like wants to learn, because I love just like knowing things, and I also love debating and just reasoning. So, but a lot of like law students have told me that law school is not that. They tell me it's like way more than, so I don't know. Don't be shocked if one day I just like decide to go to law school, because I still really want to do that. It's law school, and I think science. I love science. If you know me, you know I love science, specifically biology. And psychology science? Yeah, it's science. I consider it a science. But I love biology, psychology, and I loved chemistry before AS level chemistry. Then that just, I don't know, it kind of took away the love. But yeah, in another life, I would probably be a lawyer or a doctor even, maybe, because I actually love human anatomy and stuff like that. But I hate math, so probably not a doctor. Girl, how did I start talking about what I want to... Anyway, yeah. But just to summarize on that point, because I think this is one of the most important points that I'm going to mention here, is the formal education thing. Because I know how, especially like with our parental figures and just everybody you ask for advice, they will tell you that like, oh my gosh, you are nothing without that degree. You're playing around. Girl, play around. I'm telling you now, play around, because that is when you find yourself. Do it, rather than you being absolutely miserable for the rest of your life because you were scared of even trying. And while you're playing around, record that shit, because your portfolio can get you into places that even your degree cannot. And trust me, I know this. No tea, no shade. If you love editing, challenge yourself. Get Premiere Pro. Get a subscription. Get a, 3-month trial. Try Blender. Take up special effects design and animation, like just for fun. Maybe you'll love it. Maybe you'll hate it. We don't know. This is what life's about. You will not know what you love or don't love until you try it. Well, sometimes you'll know. But in the creative sphere, it can be very different. So I 100% recommend you try whatever you can while you can. And the best part about this is you are also acquiring so many skills that could come so handy when you need a paycheck. There are so many things that I do professionally now rooted from just me being curious. I just wanted to try it out and like play around on this software. And then I ended up turning it into my entire job, and I ended up loving it. If you told me in high school that I'd be a graphic designer, I would be like, yeah, no, that's not happening, babe. And I learned that I love branding. Branding is so powerful. And I only learned this while doing it. Obviously, you can't do everything, but you can do a lot while you're still here, especially things that you've always wanted to try. Try it out, girl. Try it out. I actually wanted to do a full episode on just dissecting branding, the psychology of branding, and the importance of having like a strong brand identity and what makes a strong brand identity. We will be dissecting pop culture, philosophy, everything. Next thing I wish I knew: start where you are, use what you have. I don't know where I would be right now if I did not do this. My problem is I'm a Sagittarius. We're delusional, baby. We are delusional. The odds can be so far from our favor. We will try and find a way to make it work, which honestly I love about us. But I know sometimes life becomes so real that it becomes so hard to be optimistic and so hard to try and start with what you already have. So for me, I've been doing video editing since I was like 12 because I had like a YouTube, but I only actually knew what I was doing, I think, in grade 12. And I remember at the time, the only editing software that I knew how to use was CapCut and Filmora. So when I first thought of the Fonda idea, I had this idea for Fonda that I wanted the first view of Fonda magazine to the world to be this cinematic video with classical music. So I started texting people. I was like, girl, I want you to be a model for my video. And one of the scenes we shot, we had paparazzi, we had cameras. Mind you, this is only one of the scenes. The others, I'm not even going to get into. It was, insane. Girl, if I knew then what I know now, probably would not have like the courage to just go do it. But what made me do it was it's nothing outside of me expressing a creative vision, not the industry, not who's going to see it, not who's going to buy it, will I make money. It was never about that. And I think when you are in high school or straight coming out of high school, you are still at a point relatively where your creativity is so fresh that you can harvest it into like huge ideas, and holding on to that value of the expression of your creative vision over societal standards and over basically anything else, obviously with the exception of moral code, because morals still play. Even if you're a creative, babes, we still gotta keep it cute. Okay, so the next one, I kind of still struggle with this, and kind of a downer from where we just came from, but it's a good to know and good to keep in your mind that rejection is a part of the job. Get used to it early. I think what this means to me is never equate rejection to your innate value to the creative industry. I say innate because right now you are very creative, but you might not know as much as you think you know. This is a realization that obviously nobody wants to face. Because I mean, as human beings, we are driven by ego. So nobody wants to really come to the realization that maybe I'm just not as competent in that thing as I could be. This does not mean that you're not creative. This does not mean that you will never be creative in this thing. This is why I said innate, because you can still be good at that thing, but once you stop trying because you got rejected that one time, you will never be competent at that thing if you stop trying. I just want to preface this. Rejection doesn't always mean that your reason for being rejected is because you lack competence in that thing that you rejected in. And I think it's important to not take any rejections you face as a creative, especially coming out of high school where shit, like you're just figuring it out. It's important for you to not take anything personal and to not let one negative review or a couple negative reviews define the longevity of your creative journey. There's this like ideology that like, oh my gosh, when you're a creative, it just comes naturally. There's no learning that has to come with it. There's no technique involved, but this is not the case. Being a creative is not enough. You need to know how to translate your creative vision into something that is like comprehensible to your audience. Your art needs to translate in the physical realm as much as it does in the creative realm. A lot of the times I was humbled, especially with graphic design. It's very technique based. You can have the best idea for like a brand or like a poster, but if that does not translate, if you don't know certain techniques, which also are constantly changing. Literally today when I opened Photoshop, there are like 7 new updates. This is obviously intimidating just coming out of high school, and you think, shit, I will never know this. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna leave it. Don't leave it, girl. Do not leave it. Trust me, it'll be worth it in the end. If it's not, you can come fight me. Okay, so this is the last one. And then after that, I have a couple honorable mentions. The last one is start creating your personal brand early. Start working on your personal brand early. Record every gig you do. Keep it somewhere in a cloud, in Google Photos, in iCloud, I don't know, wherever you're storing it, store it somewhere. I think it's so important, especially in a field where a degree is not always obtainable. It's usually really important for you to back up your competence with your years of experience. And this goes into my episode that I have about branding and stuff like that. I think when we hear brand, we are so, especially when it comes to a personal brand, it's relatively different from what we're taught about what a brand should always encompass. With a personal brand, I know we're told your brand should always be consistent. So if you do social media now, you can't switch to film, entertainment, or to something that's not marketing related. I think this is not the case. Yes, consistency is important when it comes to brand identity, But when it comes to a personal brand, I think we need to understand that people grow and personal brands should be authentic. You can't stay in a field that you no longer resonate with in the name of your personal brand. That brand will fall apart eventually because you don't love doing that thing or because you've outgrown that thing. But if you tell your story so organically that it's a natural progression and it's like, okay, you did this, now she does this, but it's still her. The brand is linked to her, not really what she's necessarily doing, but more her style of work and just like her story. I think a good example of a really good personal brand to me always is Emma Chamberlain. I love Emma, and I think she has one of the best personal brands I've ever seen. If you look at what Emma did years ago versus what she does now, I would say her style of content has changed very drastically. For one, her YouTube videos change literally every couple months, and it's like, imagine if she would have decided, no, I only have to do those quirky apartment vlogs, my little ponytail and that outfit because that's my personal brand. So I think understanding that your personal brand doesn't have to be rigid and there is room for growth outside of a version of yourself that you no longer identify with and that you've outgrown. It's very important for you to realize that there is that room for you to just develop because you are a human being. Personal brand implies person. People change, people grow. Emma Chamberlain in 2016, you wouldn't think she would actually be a fashion girly attending the Met Gala, but at no point was Emma's progression like, oh my gosh, this is new. Like, oh my, this is insane. Like, what? It was such a natural progression because I think with her, you almost followed her life. So you kind of, it's almost like you're a part of her thinking. Sounds kind of insane, but it's almost like you are a part of her mind. So you kind of see, okay, she loves this. She loves this. So it kind of makes sense that she would love that. I see this progression. Or sometimes it's a big progression. It's like, okay, I kind of see it. I see it. I know she's venturing into acting. I think I saw that recently. There was like a blind item saying that she's playing a role in a TV show or something like that. And I know a lot of people were like, okay, that's a big, which is a pretty big jump. But to me, I kind of see it as low-key natural because of the spaces she's been in. She was at the Met Gala surrounded by actresses and actors and just, it's a natural progression for Emma to do at least one acting gig in her career. So we need to understand that personal brands do not have to be rigid. There's room for growth. Do not be scared to experiment with new forms of art that you love and that you want to try out. For all I care, if you're a content creator, post that shit. When we refer to consistency, especially when it comes to a creative brand, what we're referring to is the relationship you have with your audience and how you communicate with them. Because once that becomes inconsistent, as your audience, I will no longer find a reason to resonate with you. I will no longer trust you almost. It's like, okay, so I don't know you. I had a sense of familiarity. And once that changes, once you're blindsided by that, it's like, oh, you used to be a Tana Mojo or Emma Chamberlain style girly where you would like tell us your entire life. Like you tell us, oh my gosh, today my shit was green girl. And then randomly your content is now it's like, hey guys, come with me to go try Chick-fil-A's new, very robotic and very, yeah. Don't be scared to still create some sort of brand identity to you, because I think it's more comforting when you know that, okay, there's room for whatever I decide now and whatever I resonate now with, there's room for that to still change. Personal brands are also very important for creatives because this is how we get our work. A lot of creatives are freelancers, and your personal brand is an extension of your portfolio, and it's a very important part of your career. Longevity is usually a good sign of a good personal brand. So when you start early with documenting shoots you did, or just having the content you created then, or the paintings you did that year, you just got to grow that portfolio, girl. That is literally your ticket through the industry. It's never too early for you to create a brand identity for yourself, because good brand identities have longevity to them and have stories of growth. Create a personal brand early, be consistent, but also if you need a break, take a break. Don't force yourself to create when you physically and mentally and emotionally cannot anymore, just in the name of consistency for your personal brand, because then authenticity is questioned. You don't have that authenticity, which is the most important thing to your personal brand. Yeah. I'm just going to give some honorable mentions of other things I wish I knew. Surround yourself with other creatives, even if they're not in your field. This one's very important as well, especially in Namibia. Everybody here is connected, but definitely do not ever fake a relationship with anybody just because you're scared to get blacklisted. No, girl. If you got to cut them bitches off, cut them bitches off. But ideally, obviously this is, not always the case, but try to not have bad blood, which, sometimes you don't have control over that. But in the event that we do, if we see your values and my values clearly don't align, but we're working on this project together, I'm going to keep my distance. Yeah, just basically try and harness your relationships as much as you can, but never build a relationship with someone in the industry solely off just doing it just for the sake of your career. This one is also very important, but burnout is real. Protect your energy. I'm not going to touch too much on it because I really want to do like a full episode on it, but burnout is real. Evaluate what you're feeling, see it through. If you need a break, take a break, girl. Don't push yourself if you can't. And so last one is learn how to talk about your work. So this basically means you need to be able to explain what you do and what your style is and what makes you different. This, it sounds contradicting because I also said like you don't know who you are yet sometimes, but still, and this might be bad advice, might be good advice, I don't know, but sometimes you have to fake it till you make it. If you go into a space with other creatives and you are doubting yourself, and if you come off as uncertain in all your work, go into spaces and you speak about your work without any confidence to it and any like certainty, it becomes hard for other creatives or for anybody to want to work with you, because it's like, okay, so you don't know what you're doing, so why would I work with you? But there are a lot of gray areas in this, obviously. A lot of gray areas. This is something that I might also actually cover in another episode. So take that with a grain of salt, but learn how to talk about your work to the best of your ability and to as much confidence as you possess at the time. But that is all for today. Thank you guys so much for coming on this journey with me. This was really fun. Like I said, this is just a space for talking and yapping about anything and everything, from philosophy to fashion to pop culture to psychology. We'll cover it all, girl. Make sure you leave a rating and a follow wherever you're listening to this. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or I'll probably still create it like a separate YouTube channel for the podcast once I start officially doing video podcasts, which are still in the works. I just need to get everything together, obviously, but I really love just this one-on-one on the mic, like no pressure to make sure the lighting's good and all that. But obviously I do really want to do video podcasts. But this was really chill. This was really fun. Have a good day, good night, wherever you are. La via. See you next time.